Chapter 1. The Last Day. Maya had been a good tenant. She knew it, and more importantly, she had the documentation to prove it. 3 years in the same 2-bedroom apartment on the 4th floor of a mid-rise building in a mid-sized city. 3 years of on-time rent payments. She had the bank statements. 3 years of zero noise complaints. She had never once received a written notice. 3 years of minor maintenance requests handled through the proper portal, all logged, all resolved. She had been, by any objective measure, the kind of tenant that landlords claim to want and rarely appreciate until they're gone. Moving day was a Saturday in early October. Maya had planned it the way she planned everything, methodically, in advance, with a checklist. She had given her 60-day notice in writing via email on the exact date specified in her lease. She had scheduled the moving truck for 8 a.m. She had arranged for her friend Priya to come at noon, after the furniture was gone, to help with the final walkthrough and cleaning. By 3 p.m., the apartment was empty. By 4:30, it was clean. Genuinely clean. Not __quote _0 clean. They wiped down every surface. They cleaned inside the oven and the refrigerator. They scrubbed the bathroom tiles. They patched 2 small nail holes in the living room wall with spackle and touched them up with paint she had specifically purchased to match. They vacuumed every room twice. Maya photographed everything. Every room, every wall, every corner, every appliance, inside and out. 114 photos, time-stamped, backed up to cloud storage before she left the building. She dropped the keys in the management office Dropbox at 5:15 p.m. with a signed note documenting the return. She took a photo of the note going into the box. Then she drove away and didn't look back. Chapter 2. The Wait. Her state required landlords to return security deposits within 21 days of the tenant vacating the unit, along with an itemized written statement of any deductions. Maya's deposit had been $2,200, first month's rent when she moved in 3 years ago. She had paid it by check, and she had the canceled check scan saved in a folder she'd labeled __, quote _1 _ on the day she moved in. She was that kind of person. Day 21 came and went. No check, no letter, no email. She sent a polite message to the property management company asking for an update. The response came 2 days later, a form email saying her account was __, quote _2 _ and that she would receive correspondence shortly. Day 25, Day 28, Day 30. On Day 31, a letter arrived. Not a check. A letter. She opened it at her kitchen table in her new apartment. It was a 1-page itemized deduction statement from Hartwell Property Management. The deductions were as follows. Damage to bedroom wall, repainting required, $480 damage to bathroom tile. Replacement, $390 carpet cleaning. Excessive soiling, $275 kitchen appliance cleaning, $190 miscellaneous repairs. Door handle and window latch, $165 administrative processing fee, $75. Total deductions, $1,575. Refund enclosed, $625. There was a check for $625 in the envelope. Maya set it down and read the list again. Then she opened her phone and started going through the 114 photos she had taken on moving day. Chapter 3. The Evidence. The bedroom wall. Maya found 12 photos of the bedroom walls taken from multiple angles on moving day. The walls were clean. The 2 nail holes she had patched were invisible. She had done a careful job with the spackle and the touch-up paint. There was no damage, no marks, no scuffs beyond what any 3-year occupancy would produce and what is legally classified as normal wear and tear in virtually every state. The bathroom tile. She had 4 close-up photos of the bathroom tiles, taken specifically because one tile near the base of the shower had a hairline crack that had been there when she moved in. She had documented it on her move-in inspection form, the form she had submitted to the management company on her 3rd day in the apartment. the copy of which she had saved as a PDF. The crack was pre-existing. She had the proof in two separate documents. The carpet. She had photos of every section of carpet in the apartment. It was clean. It showed normal wear, slightly compressed in high-traffic areas, as carpet does after 3 years, but there was no staining, no soiling, no damage. Normal wear and tear on carpet is not billable to a tenant. In most states, carpet has a defined useful life, typically 5 to 7 years, and landlords cannot charge tenants for replacing carpet that has simply aged. Maya's carpet was 4 years old when she moved in, making it 7 years old at move-out. It was fully depreciated, even if it had needed cleaning. Charging a tenant for normal end-of-life carpet wear is not legally permissible. The kitchen appliances. Her photos showed a clean oven, a clean refrigerator interior, a clean stovetop. She had a photo of herself holding a clean oven rack up to the light. Priya had taken it as a joke while they were cleaning because Maya had been so thorough. It was time-stamped 2:47 p.m. on moving day. The oven was spotless. The door handle and window latch. These she had no specific photos of, but she had something better. She had a maintenance request submitted 14 months earlier, noting that the front door handle was loose. The request was in the management portal, time-stamped, with the property management company's response confirming they had sent a maintenance worker to address it. The window latch in the second bedroom had been noted in her original move-in inspection form as __quote_3__. Both items were pre-existing, documented, and the responsibility of the landlord, not the tenant. The administrative processing fee. This one made her pause. She looked up her lease. There was no provision for an administrative processing fee related to deposit deductions. It wasn't in the lease. It wasn't in the addendum. It wasn't mentioned anywhere in writing. It was, as far as she could determine, a number someone had added to the list. Maya put her phone down. She did not cash the $625 check. Chapter 4. Understanding the Law. Maya was 29. She worked as a data analyst for a healthcare company. Her entire professional life was about finding patterns in numbers and knowing what the data actually said versus what someone claimed it said. She approached the deposit dispute the same way she approached a bad data set, systematically, without emotion, looking for where the claims diverged from the evidence. She spent an evening researching tenant rights in her state. What she found was comprehensive and, in several respects, directly applicable to her situation. Her state's Landlord-Tenant Act was specific. Security deposit deductions must be for actual damages beyond normal wear and tear. Normal wear and tear, defined in case law and statute as the natural deterioration of a property through ordinary use, is the landlord's responsibility, not the tenant's. Landlords cannot deduct for repainting walls unless the damage is beyond normal wear. They cannot deduct for carpet cleaning or replacement unless the damage is beyond normal use and the carpet has remaining useful life. They cannot charge fees not specified in the lease. And critically, if a landlord fails to return the deposit or provide an itemized statement within the statutory deadline, they may be liable for the full deposit amount, plus a penalty of up to twice the deposit in some states, plus the tenant's attorney fees. Hartwell Property Management had sent the itemized statement on day 31. The statutory deadline was 21 days. They were 10 days late. That single fact, the late delivery, meant that in Maya's state, the landlord had already forfeited their right to make any deductions at all. The full $2,200 was potentially recoverable, not just the disputed amounts. She also found something specific to her situation. Several state attorney general opinions and court decisions in her jurisdiction had addressed the question of pre-existing damage documented on move-in inspection forms. The consistent ruling, if a tenant documents a pre-existing condition at move-in and the landlord accepts that documentation without objection, the landlord cannot later charge the tenant for that condition at move-out. Maya had submitted her move-in inspection form. The management company had acknowledged receipt. The bathroom tile crack and the window latch were both on that form. Both charges were not just disputable, they were almost certainly unenforceable. She made a list of every charge and the specific legal basis for disputing it. Bedroom wall repainting. Normal wear and tear. No visible damage in move-out photos. Not billable. Bathroom tile. Pre-existing damage documented on move-in inspection form. Not billable. Carpet cleaning. Normal wear and tear. Carpet fully depreciated at 7 years old. Not billable. Kitchen appliance cleaning. No damage evident. Move-out photos show clean appliances. Not billable. Door handle and window latch. Pre-existing issues documented in maintenance request and move-in form. Landlord responsibility. Not billable. Administrative processing fee. Not specified in lease. Not billable. Late delivery of itemized statement. Received day 31. Statutory deadline day 21. Potential forfeiture of all deduction rights. Every single line item was disputable, and the late delivery gave her a basis to claim the full deposit regardless of the individual items. Chapter 5. The letter Maya did not call Hartwell Property Management. She had learned, from reading about similar cases online and from one conversation with a tenant rights organization, that phone calls with property managers rarely produce results and often produce statements that get misremembered or misrepresented. She wanted everything in writing. She spent 2 evenings drafting her response letter. It was 4 pages. She was not aggressive. She was not emotional. She was precise. The letter opened by acknowledging receipt of the itemized deduction statement dated 31 days after her vacate date, and noting that this exceeded the statutory 21-day deadline under her state's Landlord-Tenant Act, citing the specific statute and section number. It noted that under the relevant case law, late delivery of the itemized statement may constitute forfeiture of the landlord's right to retain any portion of the deposit, and that she was reserving all rights under that provision. It then addressed each deduction individually. For the bedroom wall, she noted that her move-out photographs, time-stamped and available upon request, showed no damage beyond normal wear and tear as defined by statute, and that repainting costs attributable to normal occupancy are the landlord's responsibility. For the bathroom tile, she attached a copy of her move-in inspection form documenting the pre-existing hairline crack, and noted that the management company had acknowledged receipt of that form at the time of move-in. For the carpet, she cited the depreciation schedule commonly applied in her jurisdiction, and noted that carpet of 7 years' age has no remaining depreciable value for which a tenant can be charged. For the kitchen appliances, she referenced her move-out photographs. For the door handle and window latch, she attached the maintenance request record from the management portal. For the administrative processing fee, she noted the absence of any such provision in her lease and requested the specific contractual basis for the charge. The letter closed with a formal demand: full return of the $2,200 deposit within 14 days, inclusive of the $625 already issued by check. She noted that if the full amount was not received within that period, she would pursue all available remedies, including filing a complaint with the State Housing Authority, filing in small claims court for the deposit plus applicable penalties, and seeking attorney fees as provided by statute. She sent the letter by certified mail with return receipt requested. She also emailed a scanned copy to every email address she had on file for Hartwell Property Management, including the general inquiry address, the maintenance address, and the email address of the property manager she had corresponded with during her tenancy. She kept copies of everything. Chapter 6. The response. 9 days after sending the letter, Maya received a phone call from a woman named Diane, who identified herself as the operations director at Hartwell Property Management. Maya had not spoken to Diane before. Her previous contacts had all been with a leasing agent named Kevin in the general customer service line. Diane's tone suggested she had read Maya's letter carefully. Diane said she had reviewed Maya's file and wanted to discuss the deposit situation. Maya said she was happy to discuss it and asked if she could record the call for her records. Diane paused briefly and said that was fine. Maya opened her voice memo app and pressed record. She said the date, time, and names of both parties on the record. Then she listened. Diane acknowledged that the itemized statement had been sent later than the statutory deadline. She described it as an administrative oversight and said the company took compliance seriously. She did not concede that the late delivery forfeited their deduction rights. But she didn't argue that it didn't either. She moved quickly to the individual items. She said the property manager had noted wall damage during the move-out inspection. Maya asked when the move-out inspection had occurred and whether Maya had been notified of or invited to attend it. Diane said she would have to check the file on that. Maya noted that her lease specified that tenants had the right to be present at move-out inspections if they provided written request, which Maya had done by email 2 weeks before her move-out date. She had the email. She asked whether the property manager had acknowledged that request. Diane said she would check. On the carpet, Diane said the cleaning charge was standard. Maya cited the depreciation schedule and the age of the carpet. Diane was quiet for a moment. On the bathroom tile, Maya mentioned the move-in inspection form. Diane said she would need to locate that document. Maya said she had a copy and could forward it, which she did by email while they were still on the phone. On the administrative processing fee, Diane could not identify the lease provision authorizing it. She said she would need to review the lease. The call ended with Diane saying she would review everything and be in touch within a week. Maya thanked her, noted the date of the expected response on her calendar, and followed up the call with a brief email summarizing what had been discussed and the timeline Diane had committed to. Chapter 7. Small Claims Research. While she waited, Maya did one more round of preparation. She located the small claims court for her jurisdiction, downloaded the filing forms, and filled them out in draft. The claim amount, $2,200 in deposit, plus $4,400 in penalties, twice the deposit amount as permitted by statute for wrongful withholding, plus filing fees. Total potential claim, $6,600 plus costs. The filing fee was $85. She was not planning to file immediately, but she wanted to be ready, and she wanted Hartwell Property Management to understand, from her letter, that she had done this research. The specific penalty amount she had cited in her letter, twice the deposit, was not a bluff. It was the statute. She also looked up Hartwell Property Management's complaint history with the State Housing Authority. She found 3 prior complaints over the past 4 years, 2 of which related to security deposit disputes. Neither had resulted in formal action, but both were on the public record. She noted this not to use as leverage, but because it told her something about how the company operated and how likely they were to respond to a well-documented formal claim. Chapter 8. The Offer. 6 days after the call with Diane, an email arrived. It was from Kevin, the leasing agent, not Diane, which Maya found interesting. The email was brief. It said that Hartwell Property Management had reviewed her file and was prepared to revise the deposit deduction. The revised deductions were carpet cleaning, $275, all other charges were being withdrawn. Revised refund, $1,925. A check would be issued within 5 business days. Maya read it twice. The offer was better, but it wasn't full. The carpet cleaning charge was still there, and she had a clear legal basis to dispute it. $275 wasn't a large amount, but the principle mattered, and more importantly, she had already established that the late delivery of the original statement potentially entitled her to the full deposit regardless. She was not going to accept a partial resolution when the law gave her a complete one. She replied to Kevin's email the same day. She thanked him for the revised offer and noted that she appreciated the withdrawal of the majority of charges. She then noted, respectfully but clearly, that the carpet cleaning charge remained in dispute for the reasons outlined in her original letter, specifically the age of the carpet and the applicable depreciation standard. She further noted that the original itemized statement had been delivered 10 days past the statutory deadline, and that she was maintaining her claim to the full $2,200. She said she was willing to resolve the matter without further escalation if the full deposit was returned, and that she would otherwise proceed with filing in small claims court at the end of her 14-day demand period, which had 4 days remaining. Chapter 9. Full Resolution. 2 days later, 12 days after her original demand letter, a new email arrived from Diane directly. It contained a single paragraph. Hartwell Property Management was issuing a full refund of the $2,200 security deposit. A check had been cut that morning and would arrive within 3 to 5 business days. The $625 check previously issued was being canceled and replaced with the full amount. There was no admission of wrongdoing. There was no apology. There was just the number, $2,200. The check arrived 4 days later. Maya deposited it, confirmed it cleared, and then sat down and wrote a detailed, factual account of her experience. Not an angry review, but a thorough one. She posted it on 2 platforms commonly used for tenant reviews of property management companies. She described the timeline, the charges, the legal basis for her dispute, and the outcome. She did not editorialize. She did not call anyone incompetent or dishonest. She just wrote what happened, with dates. The review was the most useful thing she could do for the next tenant who might find themselves in the same situation with the same company. She also voided the original $625 check. She had never cashed it as she had suspected she would need it as evidence, and noted in her records that the matter was fully resolved. Chapter 10. What Maya Did. Write Maya's story is worth examining in detail because almost everything she did was replicable. None of it required a law degree. None of it required hiring an attorney. It required organization, patience, and the willingness to spend a few evenings doing research. The first thing she did right was the move-in inspection. She submitted a detailed written inspection form on day 3 of her tenancy, documented every pre-existing condition, and kept a copy. Most tenants skip this step or treat it casually. It is one of the most important documents in any tenancy because it establishes the baseline condition of the property. Without it, a landlord can claim almost any condition at move-out was caused by the tenant. The second thing she did right was the move-out documentation, 114 time-stamped photographs taken systematically, covering every surface of every room. This is not excessive. This is what the situation requires. A landlord claiming wall damage cannot sustain that claim against 12 photographs showing clean walls taken on the day of move-out. The photos didn't just support her case. They made the case almost impossible to dispute. The third thing she did right was not cashing the partial check. This is a critical point that many tenants miss. In some states, cashing a partial deposit refund check can be interpreted as acceptance of the landlord's deductions, potentially waiving your right to claim the remainder. Maya held the check, which preserved all of her options. The fourth thing she did right was researching the deadline. The statutory 21-day rule is one of the most powerful tools available to tenants, and most tenants don't know it exists. A landlord who misses the deadline doesn't just lose moral ground, they may lose their legal right to make any deductions at all. Maya found this, documented it, and cited it in her first letter. It fundamentally changed the negotiation. The fifth thing she did right was writing the letter instead of making phone calls. Every claim she made was documented in writing, with evidence attached or referenced. There was no ambiguity about what she was claiming or why. There was no way for Hartwell to later claim she had said something different. The paper trail was complete, and it told a clear, consistent story. The sixth thing she did right was setting a deadline and meaning it. 14 days. Not __, quote _5 __A. Specific date, a specific remedy, a specific next step if the remedy wasn't delivered. Hartwell knew exactly what the consequences of inaction were, and they had reason to take those consequences seriously. Chapter 11. The Broader Picture. Security deposit disputes are among the most common tenant-landlord conflicts in the country. Studies by tenant advocacy organizations consistently find that a significant percentage of tenants who move out never receive their full deposit back, not because the landlord had legitimate claims, but because tenants don't know their rights, don't document their move-out, and don't push back effectively when faced with a deduction letter. Property management companies process hundreds of move-outs per year. They know that most tenants will accept whatever they receive, cash the partial check, and move on. The administrative processing fee that appeared on Maya's deduction list, the one with no contractual basis, is a useful example of this dynamic. It exists because, most of the time, nobody questions it. It's $75. It feels like a small amount to fight over, but it's $75 with no legal basis, applied to every tenant who doesn't push back, which adds up to a meaningful revenue stream built entirely on tenant ignorance. The same logic applies to carpet cleaning charges on old carpet, repainting charges for walls with normal wear, and appliance cleaning charges when the appliances were left clean. These are not legitimate charges in most states. They are defaults, charges that appear on deduction letters because they usually stick. Maya's experience is a case study in what happens when they don't stick. The landlord backs down completely because the alternative is small claims court, a public judgment, and a statutory penalty that makes the original dispute cost prohibitive. Chapter 12. Know Your Rights. Maya got her full $2,200 back. She did it without hiring an attorney, without going to court, and without raising her voice once. She did it with a move-in inspection form, 114 photographs, 1 research evening, and 1 well-written letter. The landlord had made a calculation that she wouldn't know the rules, wouldn't document her move-out, and wouldn't push back when they sent a check for less than half her deposit. They miscalculated on every point. If you are a tenant, document everything from day one. Submit a move-in inspection form, photograph every room, keep copies of every communication. Know your state's deposit return deadline. Know what normal wear and tear means. And if your landlord sends you a deduction letter with charges that don't match the condition you left the property in, don't just cash the check. Read the law. Write the letter. Set the deadline. Know your rights. New story every week. Subscribe.